Dear brothers and sisters, if you looked at the title of the Khatwa, you're probably already confused. What's your smell? And the is not about or kalan or lack of kalan, or that you use before coming to the J or the sana of a smell. It's actually about this entire concept of odor and what spiritual implications that has. Allah subhanahu T has given us different senses, has given us different ways in which we connect with the world around us, and different ways in which we perceive things. And one of those strongest senses is this concept of odor. Odor. This concept of a smell, because odor has a persuasion that is stronger than appearance, stronger than touch, stronger than a feeling. It's a very strong sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us, and there's a physical dimension to that and a spiritual dimension. Right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never turn down a gift of perfume, and in our language, of course, in our common terminology, perfume usually refers to the scent of women and cologne to the session of men, but it's actually to the composition of oil. They had very strong oils that they would use, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to love. It was well known that he would never turn down a gift of, and if he wanted to make the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam happy with a gift, then your sure shot was to give the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam enjoyed it, who was usually not associated with the luxuriousness of this world, or the goodness of this world. This world. He said that if I was to spend half of my money on pleba, I would not consider it. I wouldn't consider it a form of extravagance. Some of the great imams, like Im said about Abu Hanif, that you could smell when he was approaching you from miles away, and you could smell after days. If he was in a gathering after he had left it from the goodness of his sleep. So there is that element of, and the Sahaba and the righteous having this love of a good sense, and I assume, inshallah, the masjid is going to smell a lot better next week after those first verse narration, because you'll take that sunnah, inshallah, seriously, but please don't overdo it, because the person next to you might not like that particular smell, and then, as good as it falls under the R, the different type of trans S, and Allah has given us and it's most often likened to sight to owl. But smell does things that sight does not do. And now we start to segue into the spiritual of this. The power of smell is that it invokes memories in many ways. And so it's able to bring back a memory, or to bring back something that is missing to the immediate detection of a person when they smell it. And you usually don't know it until it's been gone for some time. The greatest example of that is the story of Jacob and Yosef and Joseph. I can smell Yosef. And before the shirt was placed on his face, there's a smell. I can smell the something. After all of these years, there's something about it, something that really moved me. Their Allah's mother that lost her child, may Allah lost, and comfort and her entire family. And she said that one thing was she mustn't blank her the verse she has tried because she smells it every day. It's like she has smelled and was she has that memory, and it was very touching because I remembered the story of Waisafam. Allah had basically taken her. So smell has a very powerful effect of bringing back something from the past. The second most powerful element of smell is that it can invoke imagination the way that no other sense can. And so when a person, a believer is passing away, and a person away and leaving this world, and that receive the believer that received the mercy and the forgiveness and the pleasure and the forgiveness and the pleasure and the good fragrance and sustenance of your Lord, and sustenance of your Lord. A Lord that is not angry with you. A Lord that is not displeased with you. And what do the angels carry? They carry a can that is scented with the musk of Jannah to comfort the soul as it comes out. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that when you are placed you are placed in your grave, that Allah scents the grave with the scent of Jannah. And he said that the sense that you could smell the scent of paradise from a journey of 500 years away. Imagine being on your entire life is that journey, and you're proceeding to a singular destination for 500 years. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said the scent of Jannah is so strong. The scent of paradise is so strong that you could smell it from 500 years away. If you were proceeding toward doing nothing, but proceeding towards it for 500 years. And Sabat Allah, he commented the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, often when he invoked punishments, he mentioned the deprivation of the smell of Jah. All of the authentic hadith, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam talked about the oppressor. He said that whoever oppresses that from one of a Christian or a Jew that is living under the protection of the Muslims, whoever oppresses or breaks the covenants with or kills a Christian or a Jew living in the Muslims under the Muslims of the protection that they would not smell the scent of paradise. There, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentions the punishment that you would not smell the scent of paradise. And the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is hinting towards how incredible that smell is. And so imagine as you are leaving this world, and what is that smell? Because the smell of any other scent, so it can invoke imagination or about something you otherwise not smell. Or something, or not smell. On its smell. Now, what's the point of smell? And why are we talking about smell? Because Qurtubi says Allah has most hadith that bring up the analogy of smell, bring it up in the capacity of influence. As Allah had basically taken her in the capacity of the mark that you leave on a gathering, or the mark that a gathering leaves on you, the of it. The trace of it is in the smell, and that's where some of the more powerful implications of this sense come in. Because out of all of the things that are in a gathering, the smell be detected at its source. It's very hard to detect the source of a smell, right? You can detect with your sight, you can detect with touch, but the source of a smell is hardest to find. And so if there is a rotten smell, it's not always possible to detect the source of that rotten smell. And if there's a good smell, it's not always possible to detect its source. And so it's an interesting, analogy that we find here in its presence in a gathering. And the way that the Prophet ﷺ referred to its presence amongst a group of people. We also know about smell is that you often miss it when it's gone. And often don't know that you actually are detecting a smell until it's missing from you. Before Allah gives the baby the blessing of sight, Allah gives the baby the blessing of smell. And the baby, when the baby cannot smell the mother, then the baby starts to feel a great sense of distress, right? So sometimes you don't know until it's gone, and then you start to miss it. And that's also one of the things that brought up in this discussion of influence. You also, Asba said beautifully, you know fake flowers from real flowers by the smell. So you can create flowers, or you can make flowers and mold them, and they can look beautiful as plastic, and they can look extremely beautiful, and they can look real depending on if you use a certain type of clock. But Chubi has but you know it from its smell, whether it's authentic or it's not. And the believer is the same way that you know the authenticity of from believer emanates over time, as opposed to the appearance of that person. So how did the Prophet conceive of this, and how do we actually this into a practical consideration, or into practical consideration for ourselves? The first thing is that the Prophet referred to smell in the way that we interact with the Quran action. The Quran ourselves with our action with divine revelation, and what that means for the world around us. He said, the Prophet Sallallahu A.A. Wasallam said that the example of the believer who recites the Quran and acts upon it is like a citrus fruit. It smells good. What? And it tastes good too? So it's not deceiving you with its smell. If you bite into it, it tastes good. If any of you are familiar with durian in Malaysia, the king of the fruits, it smells horrible. But if you can get past that smell and take a bite into it, it tastes good. So the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying the smell doesn't deceive you of good. It's a good smell. And if you bite into a citrus fruit, then its sweetness is there as well. And then he said, Alalam, and he said that the example of the believer who does not recite the Quran is like a date which has no fragrance but a sweet taste. What the Prophet is talking about here in the recitation in the recitation of the Quran is recitation on an individual level, but it's teaching and it's lesson. As Allah had been teaching either and teaching people through the recitation or acting it, basically influencing with the Quran. So this believer has, amen, they have practice on an individual level, but they're not giving the Quran to the world around them. And so it's like a date. It has no smell, but if you bite into it, it's still sweet. At least it's not a hypocrite. And then he said, Sam, that the example of the hypocrite, he said, Allahu wasallam, the example of a hypocrite that recites the Quran, so gives to the world around, but is deprived on the inside, is like basil whose fragrance is, whose fragrance is sweet, if you bite on the into it's bitter. So it's the opposite in this situation. Its fragrance is sweet, but if you bite into it, it's bitter. And he said, Allahu alayhi wasalam, that the example of the hypocrite who does not even give the Quran, recite of the Quran is like has no fragrance, and it has a bitter taste as well. It gives off no scent, and it has a bitter taste as well. Now, notice here that the taste is omitted because no one knows the actual inside except for who? Except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the influence is restricted to the smell. What are you actually putting into the environment around you? And that should be an analogy for analogy for what you bring to the environment around you, and from what the environment brings to you, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about choosing friends. He said about the good friend, that the good friend is like the one who actually sells perfume. And so if you're around someone who is selling perfume, then even if you don't purchase the product, it rubs off on you, and you smell good when you leave that place, right? So you smell good, you leave that person's company. If you have a righteous friend, that person's influence naturally will rub off on you. You might not be able to detect exactly how. You might even apply the things that made that righteous friend as good as they are. I love the righteous, though I don't consider myself amongst them. Maybe I'll just get their intercession on the day of judgment. Maybe I'll get some of their qualities. Maybe something will rub off on me of standard of goodness from that person. So that actual product, and the way that describes is that you may not to practice the guzbadid, that person deed that made that a righteous person left a decent person on you pauses of the stuffing positively. And so you start to smell good, whereas the influence of a bad friend is like a blacksmith. Even if you don't purchase anything of it, you're still going to smell like smoke. And anyone that doesn't smoke, but that has friends that smoke and that came home one day and got in trouble with their parents because their parents thought they were smoking, can tell you about this. The Prophet said, you're on the religion of your friends. If you're around people that stink, if you're around people that have bad manners, if you're around people that don't have standards of worship or purpose, if you're if you're around people that waste themselves in things that are of no benefit, even if you commit none of those sins, you will inevitably be influenced. By the. You cannot continue to hang around a dumpster and not expect to smell like garbage at some point yourself. It's not about actually picking up a piece or putting it on you. It's not about actually picking up the cigarette and smoking it. If you're around, if you're around someone that acts in that, their character will rub off on you, and you know what the scary thing about this is. You might not even know how bad you stink until someone else smells you. Say, what is that smell? You go, shh. Oh, because sometimes that a bad character is like a scorpion that's on your back. Your back, someone has to point it out to you. A bad characteristic, someone has to point it out to you before it bites you, but it's there, right? So, and thus you don't even know how bad you smell until you're around people that don't have that same stench. And then they realize that you stink. And then you start to wonder, you're in a gathering where backbiting has been normalized. Everybody else is doing it. And then you start to hang around people that don't backbite as much as others. They look at you funny when you say something about someone and you realize you smell bad. Something's wrong because changed the environment, and so it's about how you smell and the smell of the people that you interact with. The Amga says Allah there can a good sense of this as well, because there's a societal implication to this also. When he saw a group of people coming from Iraq in the middle of the night, and the people were wandering in Medina. Who are these people traveling from Medina in the middle of Iraq? So he called out to them, and he said, "Where are you people coming from?" And they said, from a deep valley, said, where to the people around him, these people know Quran. There's someone around that does a Quran answer with Quran, something is up with these people. So he starts asking them questions about the Quran, which is the best of the Quran, and they recite ayati. Immediately, they only know, they all know with ayati. Her, which ayah gives most hope in the Quran. They recite, say, O my servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. What's the most decisive verse in the Quran? Whoever does an atom's worth of evil good will see it, and whoever does an atom's worth of evil will see it. So he's asking these questions. He's like these Quran. He's like these people have an influence on them that's there. I don't know who it is, but someone's there. And at the end of it, he goes, Abda has it amongst you? They said, yeah, he's back here. He knew it. He said these people have been hanging out with an extraordinary scholar of Quran, because they're a scholar, their literacy of the Quran and the way that comes out of them, the way that it flows, something is with these people. Something about them, and to the point that he zoned in her is, I wonder if he's amongst them, and they said he's right back there, and who goes to him, embraces him, and sits arit to absorb the Quran from whose entire life is dictated by the Quran. As so the societal impact, and what sometimes in fitna, usually a fitna tribulation, a tribulation or dissension is started by one or two people. One, we hear the stints so much that you don't even know where it started in the first place. If you walk into and a community as that's been embroiled in fitna for many years, and you just see chaos and everybody's fighting each other, you're like, where did this start? Who is the Shaytan? Who is the one who started this all? Who's the one that dropped the stink bomb in here and started this dissension and tribulation? But it's hard to detect the source. I don't know who did it. It's just I just see a bunch of people fighting at this point. That's why I said that anim, someone who quotes people's words to each other, not a liar, who quotes people's words to each other. Someone who quotes people's to each other sits in one gathering, listens to someone being spoken about, goes to another person and says, hey man, he said this about you. And then these people start to form cliques and groups and start to argue and fight. And he said that as a person, an imam, this person would cause in 1 hour a fitna that would drag for months and months and months. Forwarding email starts fitna that drags for months and months and months and months, and then everyone hates each other, and you don't know where the source of that stink is at some point. But that's the power of one person to induce stink into a community. May Allah protect us. May Allah protect us from of FNAA, of FNA ourselves, or from the outcome of fitna, because it just takes one person to start that stink, then it covers everybody, and you don't know where the source of it is anymore. It's just a bunch of people fighting at some point. So, who is the source of this? is the source of this, that has touched all of this community, that made everyone come together like this, or that brought some good to them, as had basically taken evil. And who is the source of this behindliness that leaves a stench behind, that someone else walks in and says, this smells like a dumpster. This place stinks. May Allah always give Valley Ranch, Islamic Center, a sweet smell. But this place, where did it come from? Can't detect the source. And this is why the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam speaks of it in this way. There's a quote, he says, Allah wrote on the good side of things, because him said that I wish that my knowledge would be spread. I wish that everyone would benefit from my knowledge, but no one would say my name. I wish my knowledge would spread all over the world, but no one would say my name. I wish that the people would benefit from it, but they would not ascribe to it to me. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him the person that he was, and elevated him to the place that he was, because interest was in spreading that goodness, not in being named the source of that goodness. Allah had to leave behind that sweet scent that covered the people, that spread all over the world, but his interest was in that. And there's a saying that you can be much more influential if people are not aware of your influence. You can be much more influential if people are not aware of your influence. Often the architects of good and the architects of evil are not known, and that makes them more effective at being architects of good or architects of evil. Sometimes you have a person of the most influential man in history, in the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who's both privately influential, but that the majority of that influence is generated privately, not publicly. And you can be much more influential if people are not aware of now, just like with the mother whose child misses her, when she goes away, oftentimes the good influence is not recognized until that sweet smell, the source of that sweet smell is no longer there. I'm going back to Southern California tomorrow to be where our brothers at the Institute of Knowledge, one of the greatest Muslim Americans that ever walked in this land, Dr. Ahmed, who would not be recognizable in the years before he passed away if he walked into this masjid and prayed, but has started built institutions all throughout this country, and went around and built communities, but used to go and pray with the school children. IO and last debt to last this Subhanallah, this last year at the Hindi Akin bank, we honored him, and I actually talked about this similar idea of sense, and I said this place smells like Dr. Ahmed bringing all of these people together. It smells like him. Subhanallah, that's what he did. he brought a bunch of people together and then he left the sweet smell, and then he went away. And then when he died, you missed that void. You missed that person because the goodness that they had. And lastly, dear brothers and sisters, on an individual level, Muhammad Ba said, if my sins smelled, no one would sit next to me. If my sins had a stench, no one would sit next to me. He was asked, how do the angels know that a person is about to commit a good deed or a bad deed? Said that when a person is about to commit a good deed, they emit a good smell, a sense of musk. And so the angels naturally start to congregate around that person before the good deed even happens. But even when you're about to commit a sin, that you emit a rotten stench, and so the malas start to go away from you and feel then aversion towards you even before you commit that sin. Subhanallah, dear brothers and sisters, if you could assign a smell to yourself and your influence, so what you leave in a gathering of zikr or goodness or remembrance, beneficial action or speech, or the opposites. Do you stink or do you smell good? Do you rub off good on people, or do people rub off evil on you? This is why this is all here for us to consider, and of the Prophet ﷺ and the saying of eventually it all comes out, because as they say, you can dress up greed, but you can't stop the stem thing up only for some time. But the true influence of it, eventually comes out. It rears its head in good or evil. In the last thing here from Mafal, and he talked about when he turned a worm, the last thing from he talked about when the environment that aroused its hope.